booklet, you have a few lines there, right? This is about action. This is about making your lives better. This is about taking care of your number one priority. What do you think your number one priority is? Your health. So hopefully, besides your car, you're going to fill in some good things, maybe more in the advance. There's a lot more information. Our agenda is to go over the crucial do's and don'ts of proper posture, lifting, and ergonomics. We will answer questions as we go. I would suggest try to hold them off to the end of the topic we're on. Chances are we may answer it before you get to ask it. And again, we'll answer questions individually afterwards if you have a personal item you want to discuss. So back to our health. You know, Steve Jobs, God rest his soul, right? It was worth, you know what his net worth was? $10.2 million. Most of it with Disney, some of it with the computer industry. How much do you think he'd give $1.2 billion back for his health? Do you think he'd give half? Do you think he'd rather have been broke, no one wants to be poor, than have all the wealth in the world and not have your health? So we have a lot of fun here, but we take this seriously, because are we a healthy nation? If I asked you that, how would you answer that? Well, just in case you didn't know, we spend more than any other country in the world. Yet, and it was $4.6 trillion last year, out of the 11 highest income earning countries, we are at the bottom. Out of all industrialized nations, 38, we're 36th in terms of health. More babies die within the first year of life. Worst infant mortality, worst longevity rate. We live less long than all other countries. We have heart disease. And this is why we were the second leading cause of death during COVID, besides the United Kingdom. We had the second most deaths. It wasn't COVID, folks. It was heart disease, cancer, diabetes, metabolic diseases you don't find in other countries. Now, the reason I bring this stat up is not to depress us, right? But it's to let you guys know we're on a road where 2 out of 3 people wind up with heart disease or cancer. There is another road. My mother, and we just mentioned this earlier, Ramon, my mother made it to 100 years of age. Burning like a candle, flickering out. The only thing that got her was COVID. We both had it at the same time.
Sorry.
Well, thank you. She had a wonderful life. Doing the principles that we're going to teach today, her whole life. Under chiropractic care, the reason I'm a chiropractor, she understood a philosophy, a science, and an art that taught truly what health is. This is disease care, folks. And to illustrate why we're not a healthy nation, we spent $4.6 trillion on health care, more than any other nation. We have more doctors, more hospitals, more technology than any other nation. We make and take more drugs. We're 5% of the world's population, consuming 60% of the world's drugs. And some sources say up to 70% of the world's drugs. But are we healthy? Are our families healthy? Well, I'll tell you this. I've discovered what you got to do to be healthy. You have to first ask yourself, what do you think health is? And to illustrate that, I'm going to go around the room, and I'm going to remember this young Talia's name. I just met Talia. And if I said to you, how would you complete the sentence? I know I'm healthy when?
My body feels great.
Your body feels great. I know I'm healthy when?
When I wake up in the morning and I can get out of my bed.
Get out of your bed? Brian, I know I'm healthy when?
My girlfriend doesn't yell at me.
That's my wife. That's why I wake up before the dog and my wife start barking, both of them. That's how I know I'm healthy. If you would, one more answer.
Eat right.
When you're okay, that's how to be healthy, which we're going to get to. But I'm going to give you 3 your $5 because those are the answers I was looking for. I know I'm healthy when I feel good. Now, how many people we know who feel good come out of the doctor's office, go out and shovel snow, with our weather, could be next week or something, and then drop with a heart attack, right? Healthy, they feel great, they're diagnosed with cancer. Healthy, because they have no pain, they go to pick up an 8-ounce waste paper basket. Did the 8-ounce waste paper basket cause them some pain? Well, this is the fact. Your heart, on average, will replace itself. And we don't learn this stuff. I'll tell you what we learn in a second. Our heart replaces every single cell within 3 to 4 months, normal healthy cells. It takes 3 to 5 years for the heart to replace abnormal cells before you get your first symptom. Most cancers take 10 to 12 years before we ever feel anything going wrong. So waiting for your symptoms is like waiting for your car to blow black smoke and then changing the oil, right? We don't do that with our lawnmowers either. And why do we do it with our bodies? Have you heard of this one? For the fast temporary relief, if you have a headache in the evening, you take Excedrin, PM. You're old enough, you have Tylenol for who? For juniors. How do you spell relief? Sweet Lou, been around a long time, me and you.
I know.
You may not have heard that one. Rolaids, R-O-A-I-D-S. How do you spell relief? And why do we know all the jingles? $17 trillion a year spent by the pharmaceutical industry. And do they spend it on research and development? Hardly. On what? On advertising. 2 out of 3 commercials are about a drug. And this is how insane it is, folks. Here's Billy. He's out in the field. He's able to play with his dad. They pan on Dad's skin. He's got beautiful looking skin, right? The music gets a little softer, and now it gets a little bit, eczema, and they start talking about a drug. And the lights get a little brighter, and then they talk about the side effects. Your eyeballs might fall off. You might have diarrhea the rest of your life, and your skin may just deteriorate. And sometimes the same symptom, the thing the drug is trying to correct. Now, I'm not saying drugs are not needed. If you're an insulin-dependent diabetic, thank God we have insulin. But that's not what this is, folks. This is planned chemistry so that every person in our country is on 5 or more drugs by the time they're at age 65. And that's what the average person is on, 5 drugs. My mom, guess how many she took? That means somebody took how many? 10 to pick up the averages. So this is the point, folks. How you feel is not a great indicator of your health. The lack of symptoms, but what about the opposite side? What about the presence of symptoms? Does that mean you're sick? I will give you a few examples. We go to Golden Hawaii. Again, I'm showing my age, Lou. It was a restaurant here about 40-something years ago. And we order the lo mein, but instead of the lo mein, we get the ptomaine. You know what ptomaine is? That's food poisoning, right? And I want to thank you for inviting me to this wonderful meal, but I can't get to the phone because I'm running. First of all, my body's aching, and then I'm feeling feverish, and I'm running to the bathroom because something wants to come up. Before it comes up, something wants to go out the other end. I don't want to get graphic, but I'm driving the porcelain commode. Everybody know that? The porcelain prince? That's the toilet over there. Now you, on the other hand, you can't get to the phone because you're passed on, I hope, to an existence better than this one. See, I got all these symptoms, right? I got a fever. And what do we do with the fever?
Aspirin.
With aspirin, right? Because the aspirin's smart. The body in its infinite intelligence raises its temperature to burn off a virus and a bacteria. How could that be good? The body expressing what it knows how to do to heal. The upchuck is the same thing. So we looked, we have 3 kids, always make that mistake. Almost had 4, just kidding. And we had maybe 6 or 8 fevers in raising them. Why? We recognize virus and bacteria don't like heat. We let the body do its job. It burnt it off 12 hours. We didn't even look at our child as sick. You know, the virus and bacteria we blame from Hong Kong are in our own system that get out of balance most times. It's when your resistance lowers that how could you put 3 people in a room, 2 get sick and 1 doesn't, or vice versa? 1 gets sick and 2 don't. Because the body knows how to heal things. We get congested. The body's way of getting rid of toxins is to produce mucus. We've been trained to blow something up our nose to dry up what the body has produced to heal. So we talked a lot about what health is not. It's not the absence of pain, certainly, because people feel no pain and could be very sick inside. You could have a lot of symptoms, and it's a sign your body is healing and working, right? What health is, though, is something entirely different. 100% health is 100% the magic F word, and it's not the F word my son is learning in school as we speak. Just kidding. I guys got you scared. It's an F-U-N-C-T-I-O-N. It's 100% functioning. When the body functions right, it stays healthy. It's not so much how you feel, but how you function. And when you break the body down to its smallest element, what has to function? A bunch of what, folks? Thank you, because I keep on writing until somebody gives me the answer. Just kidding. So cells create tissues. Tissues create organs. Organs work in systems, your circulatory, your respiratory system, to create a healthy body. So, for example, we mentioned your heart before. Every 3 to 4 months is replaced with all new cells. Your stomach lining every 3 to 5 days. Your heart, your liver every 6 weeks. Within 1 to 2 years, our body is in the process of regenerating and healing. Now, the key is, what are we doing to give these cells what they need to be in this process and not in this one? Because if the cells don't get what they need, they replace abnormally. And the body doesn't repair sick cells. It's either in this process, or we're creating abnormal tissue, abnormal organ. We're creating disease, which is there weeks, months, years usually, before the symptoms start. And then we get rid of the symptoms, and we think everything is fine. So we have to focus on what the cells are doing in our bodies on every given day. Now, before we get to that, we're going to do a little review. Let's have you open up your booklet. I got my remote. Give me my couch, and I'll be completely happy. That's a man thing, I think. So, it states this. Please fill in the blanks. That I think you have our 39-year anniversary pen if we upgraded, because they were 38s for a while. Health is not the absence of, what did we say? Pain or symptoms. In fact, pain or symptoms are the last 2 warning signals to occur with most disease processes. Research indicates it takes how many years for heart disease to develop? 3, anybody remember, to 5? And how many for cancer? 10 to 12 years of us feeling good while our bodies really are not doing the job inside. And 100% health is achieved by 100%, what's the magic F word? Function of your body. And in order to have a healthy body, my body must have healthy what? Cells. In fact, the quality of my life is the quality of my cells. Now, this is the Dorland's Medical Dictionary definition, also the World Health Organization definition, which all health providers should be really focused on. It states this, and we're going to spend a second on it because it's kind of important. Health is a state of optimal physical, P-H-Y-S-I-C-A-L, emotional, they say social, but I have literary license because I'm speaking. I say spiritual and social well-being. So just fill that in, and I'm going to explain why I think we need to consider this definition. See, everything in life is a balancing act, right? The chair you're sitting on is pretty well balanced, but if one leg is weak, what does it do to the other legs, right? It puts a little more stress on the other 3 legs. We could be in great physical shape, but come home and have no love in our lives, and can we really be healthy? No, we need to express love, we need to feel love. And we could be the greatest lover, but if we have no spiritual underpinnings and we have some crisis, some major life-changing thing, and we don't see a purpose for that, or a reason for it, or something bigger than ourselves to get us through it, we may never get through it. So, where are we out of balance? Maybe this is the first thing we need to write on our front cover, things that we need to look at and really be introspective. Because I guarantee you it's hard to work on all of them. We want to give you the tools to work on all of them. But we need to really focus on what it's easy to do, what comes easy, on what we're not doing. But the odd part of this, and I guarantee you by the 2 workshops that once they're completed, you're going to know where you feel a little short or where you're doing real well on these. The odd thing is, look at the second half of this definition. Not merely the absence of disease and infirmities. Not merely the absence of what our whole medical allopathic system focuses on, because that's the focus, the absence of disease and infirmities, not the promotion of health. And according to Webster's dictionary, health is a condition of wholeness in which all of the organs, tissues, and cells, what's the magic F word? Functioning 100% of the time. Now, we're going to talk about functioning of your spine because in every working machine, structure determines function. And this is where everything pivots in. Now, the reason it's important to have your nerve system working right is because the cells, remember, need 4 things. They need oxygen, water, hormones, and nerve energy. And that we're going to cover in the advanced workshop. How you give them the oxygen, the water, the hormones. And that's through eating right, thinking right, moving right. Right? All the other lifestyle choices. Well, you may not know it now, but you're in a new lifestyle choice. At least until you're feeling good. Because some people use chiropractic as a Band-Aid. They feel good. And they don't look at it like a lifestyle choice. See, I know it's a lifestyle choice. I know that I couldn't do what I've done in my life unless I was getting energy from my brain to my tissue cells. That's one of the things they need to get rid of toxins too. So it's giving the cells what they need and getting rid of toxins. But again, structure determines function because your arms pivot into your spine, right? So if you're working like this, your legs pivot into your spine if you're walking with bad shoes. Your nerve system also is under emotional stress because when we get emotionally stressed, muscles pull the vertebra. And then nerves recognize chemical imbalances, pesticides, preservatives. That all causes this thing to get messed up. For a lack of a better term, it's subluxation, which we know, you guys know about that, because once I had my hands around your neck, you better know what subluxation is, right? That's what we're taking care of. But what do we need to do to keep this thing healthy besides getting adjusted? Well, first of all, we spend nearly a third of our lives in bed. And getting a good night's sleep is crucial. When we sleep is when we heal. Number one, the best mattress lasts 10 to 12 years. The 20-year warranty doesn't mean anything. So if you're not in the market for a mattress, get a 3/8" plywood between the mattress and the box spring. The best is a latex foam with spring. Nothing that conforms to your posture, number specific. I've never met anybody with perfect posture. Why would you want something that conforms to your posture? Flat bed, not the firmest, one level down. The firmest is usually like sleeping on a bed of concrete. I don't like the pillow tops because you must turn this around every 30 days and flip it or you're lying in the same bellows. So a simple flat bed that you could turn around, rotate every 30 days. The bedroom for sleeping only. Research shows, we said maybe one other activity, that's a joke. The point is, if you're watching TV, reading a book, eating, subconsciously when you go to your room, your bedroom, you're not going to get the best night's sleep. Your cell phone should be far removed in another room or turned off. Okay, because that emits a lot of gamma rays, a lot of damage to you. The snooze button, my wife kills me with that thing. All it does is interrupt your sleep. When it goes off, just get up. And your room should be totally black. You need black and shades. Totally black. It doesn't matter if you do all of those things if you're sleeping on your stomach. So proper positions, on your back with a pillow under your knees. Get the concept because it's every position, standing and sitting. When you bend your legs, you relax the psoas muscle. It's the major hip flexor. Real easy in bed, you just put a pillow under your knees. One pillow under your neck. The most common faulty posture in North America is the forward head tilt. I call it your head walks in 5 minutes before the rest of your body when you enter the room because we're like this. Your ear should be over your shoulder. Feather down, 50% of each. Thicker pillow when you're on your side under your neck because your head has to be neutral. Try a pillow between the knees if it's comfortable. If you have hip problems, lower back, pillow here. Even Dr. Spock's books for infants are saying not the best thing to be on your stomach. Crowd your heart and lungs, weakens your stomach muscles, hurts your lower back muscles as well. When you go to get up, even on our adjusting tables, and I've mentioned this a couple of times today, turn on your side, push off with your elbow and your hand. Don't pull up this way. If the mattress is behind me, do not pull up this way. Not one time, but repetitively you're straining. Sit at the edge of the bed for a few seconds. I see so many folks with vertigo, tinnitus, not just seniors. And I believe, and they didn't do the research, but I'm sure they would find, that we don't give our equilibrium, our vestibular system, time to set. We're always jumping up. Say an affirmation. We teach that in the advanced workshop, the positive attitude of your brain. Whatever you got to do, but just don't jump up from right after you get up out of bed. If you're unable to sleep, change your sleep habits. Meditation. If you're reading, watch TV. If you're watching TV, read. When you're stressed, it makes a big difference to get the sleep you need. And if you don't make it up within 48 hours, they say that sleep is lost. Like you could catch up, but after that, it's going to have some damaging effects on your body. That's just the way it is. Try winding down, no work, no TV. Do a few yoga exercises. Take a sleepy time cocktail. That's not your favorite adult beverage. Some melatonin, some 5-HTP. Enjoy a warm herbal bath. Demetriosis, I don't think you'll be doing that one, but do not eat late. And number one thing, and you will need less sleep, exercise, regular exercise. We teach a 5-step program in our advanced workshop. But I'll tell you one of the most amazing things you can do to get a good night's sleep. I said this to a couple of folks here who got their first adjustment. Right, Ryan? I said, you're going to get the best night's sleep. And I say that just anecdotally, because I didn't know why, but I just saw that that's what people told me. Well, this is the most amazing thing. They discovered something called the glymphatic system, not the lymphatic system. And this research is about 5 years old. The glymphatic system is this. When you go to sleep at night, there are periarticular ducts, not your arteries, but there are ducts that surround the brain that carry cerebral spinal fluid. Cerebral spinal fluid gets pumped by your sacrum, it's pumped by your base of your skull here, and it goes into the brain. When you're sleeping 60 times the amount, because these ducts open up. And that's why we sleep well. It washes away all the bad neurotransmitters. It increases the uptake of good neurotransmitters. So when you get a good night's sleep, less depression, less dementia, etc. This is the thing. Damadian, the founder of MRI, just did research, and this is about 10 years, maybe a little less, years old, with 2 chiropractors in New York, that when you adjust the atlas vertebra, this was with a specific technique, atlas orthogonal, it improves cerebral spinal fluid flow. It opens up like a dish rag. It takes tension off of all of those, the meninges that surround the spine, but it improves flow up to the brain. And this is why, all these years I've been saying it, now I have the research why you get a better night's sleep when you free up a subluxation up here. So, getting a good night's sleep, you need to do all of these things, but be sure you get adjusted. If you're lying on your back, this is review. You have this in your booklet. Pillow under your knees. Alternate position, very good. When you go to get up, sit there for a couple of seconds. Now, standing. If you're doing a lot of standing, you're going to put a lot of stress on your lower spine. Why? This psoas muscle is going to be tight. Get a little footstool or a box where you can raise your foot one at a time to take stress off your spine. You could also do a pelvic tuck by pulling your belly in, tightening your cheeks, and just, it's an exercise you could do lying down, but you could do it standing. And you could do it also with raising and alternating your feet. General word about footwear. If you're wearing high heels, hopefully that's not the gentleman, but whatever you're into, don't go from a high heel to a flat, especially if you've been wearing that all day, because you're going to put a lot of stress on that psoas muscle, and you're going to increase this lumbar curve. So wear an intermediary pump. General word, your heel should not be more than twice your height of your sole. These are pretty good. Clogs, god-awful ugly in my opinion. Not that bad, because they have a heel this big, but the front, the sole is also equally large. Plus, you must have an arch. I don't see them here. Converse are making a resurgence. Converse have no arch and Pro-Keds. So if you see people wearing them, or if you have a pair at home, put a little orthotic, something that improves the arch into those shoes. If you're going to lift something, if that's a 100-pound bag of cement or that, it's got to be close to your center of gravity. So whenever you're lifting something like this, think about trying to get something out of your trunk of your car. You're like this, you can't bend your knees either. So you got to get close to your center of gravity. I've done well so far until I've twisted. Use your legs and do this. Use your legs to lift, not your back even when you're twisting. Alrighty, let's go to sitting posture. Number one, avoid soft chairs. Your chair should be at 120 degrees. You can make that adjustment in your car, not at 90, but at 120. You could raise your knees higher than your hips in your car, or you could use an ottoman. No wallets in your back pocket. When you sit on one of these two bones. That's like walking around with a salami in your shoe. No wallets in your back pocket. Who here works with computers? Okay, we got a few guys. So, and ladies, excuse me. Number one, change your gaze. So if this is my computer screen right here, and I'm working on anything, I'm not always typing. I'm going to be thinking about what I'm doing. Change your gaze and I'm going to look at that clock and I'm going to change my gaze. Also, don't do anything for more than 40 minutes, any task. Because each task requires a different amount of direct stare and gaze, and change it up. The other thing is, most common faulty posture, again, the forward head tilt. Set a timer every 15 minutes for 5 seconds. Pull your chin up, straight back, look up at the ceiling and roll your shoulders. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's this, that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Your eyes need to be in the center of the screen, which is very difficult. You cannot lower your chair low enough to do that. So if you look at all our computer stations, we have these little bookshelves on there. Increases the workspace underneath. And you could even put a laptop so your eyes are in the center of the screen. Your hand needs to be linear. So first of all, you don't have this in your booklets there. Oops. Your phone should be on your left-hand side, first of all. So you're doing this, and you're doing this. And if you're looking at the computer, that's fine. But we're never doing this. If you're lefty, reverse everything. Put the phone on the other side. Your arm needs to be at 70, 90 degrees and linear. This is linear. So, Talia, do me a favor. Put your arm like, you didn't know I was going to call on you. Don't worry. I'm not going to ask you to do too much.
Okay.
Just resist my motion. Now feel that strength. Now resist my motion. A lot weaker that way. Because when I teach adjusting, when I see students and they're adjusting and they're like this, or even if you're lifting something, if your hand is not straight out, which is linear, these muscles get strained. So elbow at 70 to 90, and this needs to be completely straight out all the time with whatever work you're doing, but especially on the computer. All right. Well, we're going to move on. Here we go. So we're going to just talk about my 3 kids. Don't worry about it. I have no family vacation shots. No report cards or any of that. But I have 3 who are all born with a midwife. My son being born at home. Our families were very supportive of that. Yeah, right. And when my son, who was the firstborn, comes home and he says, Dad, they didn't take me on the basketball team. Dad, Vanessa's not going to the dance. Dad, you're not giving me the keys to the car. I say, Stevie, you're never getting the keys to the car. Dad, my life stinks. I say, Stevie, your life is perfect. It happened about 270 to 280 days before you were born. This one thing was swimming upstream. And at the same time, this other thing was planted upstream. If you guys don't get this yet, you're in trouble. We'll call her Miss E. But there were a few trillion, with a T, trillion of these other things swimming upstream. But this one outlasted, outperformed, did everything out. And out of those 2 half cells became 1 cell, 2 cells, 4 cells. And up until 3 weeks of life, every single cell looks identical. And at 3 weeks of life, the first 2 organs form in the human body. That's your next page. Anybody, and it's a couple of pages. You got to stay fit while you sit. What do you think the first two organs, that page you could read over, it has some specifics about sitting. First two organs to form, what are they?
Hard
Heart? No.
one.
Brain and the spinal cord. It's called the primitive streak. And from that primitive streak, it directs cells left of midline here to become your heart, red flopping balls, your kidneys. In fact, the purpose of your nerve system is to control, what's the magic F word? Function, and that's according to Gray's Anatomy, of every tissue, cell, and organ in the body. And that is, from the moment these two half cells meet, the nerve system directs the show. So here we are. My brother's our only person helping us out on this wonderful journey of giving birth. He's running his business. And I said, Rick, can you turn the ringer down? We're trying to have a baby here. He turns the ringer off. Now both families are at the front door thinking we're all dead because nobody's getting an answer, right? I'm running down our garden apartment. Remember this like yesterday, certain things you'll never forget. And it seems like after I pushed both families out, I'm upstairs and I'm holding Stevie's leg up, or his mother's leg, and I'm looking and I go, oh my God, his head's deformed. I see this black ridge till I realize his hair is perfectly parted down the center. He sticks his head up like Yoda, says this place ain't too bad, I'll come a little further. 5 fingernails, look like they've been to the beauty salon. 5 fingers on this side, perfectly placed. He plumps out. I look at the midwife, I say, now what? We kick my brother out. You're leaving. As crazy as this sounds, God-awful truth. He's born at 9:14 on a Sunday, and I have office hours here in Whitestone, 9 o'clock the next morning on a Monday. And she says, have him sleep between you. It's the best thing you can do, the body warmth, etc. And this is my fondest memory. My daughters are gorgeous creatures, and they had their own birth stories that were outrageous, but I will never, ever forget this. I remember looking to my right, knowing I had to get up within like 5 or 6 hours. It was 2:15. I looked to my left, and there was my son, less than 5 hours old, wide awake, staring right back at me. And my thought was exactly this. What a miracle. What an intelligence that took these 2 half cells, created 1 cell, 4 cells, and multiplied till out comes this perfectly functioning human being that needs no help, no interference. It just needs to be. Because there's an innate awareness for every innate need. Whatever, if that could create that perfectly functioning human being, whatever happens in our environment, our bodies can adapt to. So now when he's 13 and he goes on this student exchange, which was a great thing, New Zealand and Australia for a month, the ambassador program, but he eats a terrible diet. Foods he's not used to. Monosodium glutamate, say that 5 times fast. Salty garbage chemicals. Well, if there's an innate awareness for every innate need, what do you think the body does? It retains what? Water. And what retains water is his kidneys. What directs his kidneys is the pelvic nerve. You may not be able to read that, but you'll see it's green. Part of your parasympathetics, which generally slow things down. But then he's got the lumbar splanchnic nerves to speed it up. But that's going to put extra strain on what? His heart. But now he's got the cardiopulmonary nerve and the vagus nerve to slow things down. And then his adrenal glands have to kick in some adrenaline. So now that his body's got this orchestra going on, comes home, may feel fatigued, tired, maybe even have a headache. People who love him the most take him to the doctor. Doctor checks his blood pressure and says, you have what? Hypertension, and you need to do what? Take a drug, right? Not my son. Not that I would tell him differently, but he's been raised to think differently. If he gives himself 2 weeks, a month, what do you think he'll do with that extra salt? He'll get rid of it. Right? I cut myself. Where's my favorite one of the week? Working around the house. Didn't think much. I knew I had to keep it clean. My body knew exactly how much scab to put, when to take it off. That's healing. That's how the body works. But what happens if his kidneys get the message to retain the water, but his heart doesn't get the message to be faster? Or his heart gets the message, but his adrenal glands don't kick in adrenaline. Well, let me ask you this question this way. What's the most common cause of nerve interference in the human body? I want to hide half the answer there. Most common cause of nerve interference, anybody know? See, and this is where I could commit suicide by jumping out the window, but it's kind of hard.
Suicide?
Thank you. Now I don't have to commit suicide. We now have no windows and we're in a basement, so I'm not that worried. But if I asked you, what drug do you take in the evening when you have a headache, Excedrin PM, how do you spell relief, RLAIDS? When you're old enough, you have Tylenol for who? For juniors? We know them all. We don't know what interferes with the basic healing of our bodies. Sub meaning less than a dislocation. Or your autonomic nerve system having this red light. What's the red light? Say my son is going down and he's riding a flume or whatever they ride on those sleighs, and his body gets thrown out of position and the vertebra to his kidneys gets misaligned. First of all, does he feel that nerve pressure? Not necessarily. Most of the nerve is your autonomic nerve system. But this is what also can happen. That's a physical stress, right? But then he can come to his room. Oh, by the way, he goes to his room, he stretches out, does a couple of yoga poses. The vertebra comes back into normal position, pressure off the nerve. But then Vanessa calls. And Vanessa says, not only am I not going to the dance with you, I'm going with your best friend and it's the prom. I know I paint the worst picture. And now he gets emotionally stressed. And the vertebra misaligns, but then he goes and he does some meditative thing, and now that vertebral goes back into normal position. But then he goes and he eats this terrible meal with monosodium, I'm not going to say that one again, glutamate, monosodium glutamate, and now he gets the chemical stress. So folks, these are the stresses we need to adapt to. There's a page in your advanced workshop about understanding subluxations and identifying all your stresses. Guess what the most common physical stress everybody here is under, or had, I should say, and is no longer under. That's a lot of hints. This had to happen or you wouldn't be here. We talked about it with my son. What about birth? What about in our country with mom on her back with the major blood supply, the baby and the placenta lying on the nerve supply as well to get this baby to come out. So instead of 20 to 30 degrees uphill, my kids were born squatting in a birthing chair and kneeling with less tension and with gravity. So what happens here in a normal natural vaginal birth? The head is rotated 180 degrees, and then they rotate the opposite shoulder. By the way, 90% of us are born this way, with 60 to 90 pounds of pressure of pulling up on the infant's neck. They rotate the opposite shoulder 180 degrees. A normal natural process is a medical one. And by the way, how does a baby come out? Hi, let's have a party. No, it's screaming, ranting, and raving, because they still use these things called forceps, resulting in severe subluxation. And if you think you're born with a C-section, like they take a pea out of a pod, well, it really doesn't work that way, because you're meant to go through the birth canal. When you don't, they put a bulb down there to soak up all of the stuff in the nasal passageways that's supposed to be massaged out. And then it doesn't shape your head. Your cranial bones are shaped when you go through the birth canal. C-section babies have a higher incidence of depression, dementia. And don't worry if you were born that way, because you can replace it, because you also don't get the normal bacteria going through mom's canal. You get it from the doctor's skin, the mother's skin, which is not the normal flora. And we'll talk more about the flora another time. This fellow still has his ring on. Now, if you're not sure of the power of the human body to heal, watch a baby, and you can come to Haiti. I'm going in August, and I do mission work there, and we'll adjust every child, every patient in the hospital, every doctor, every staff person, and this is why. They're a drug culture like everywhere else. But there you say God heals. God heals from the brain to every single tissue cell. God blessed our hands to make sure that your body's healing at its best. And they say, where's the table? I'm getting my family. You can't keep them off the table, because they're open to a more spiritual understanding. So this is what I'm suggesting, folks. Anyone you know who was born needs to get their spine checked. And if they're sick from birth, like they had ear infections, You know what happens with a kid with ear infections? They have a drug, or colic, usually first. They're always crying, right? Then they take a drug, it shuts down. Colic is their digestive system is shut down. And I could tell you kids in our office who had colic, who've gotten adjusted, and their bowel habits change, their behavioral, cognitive behavior changes. The sooner you're subluxated, the sooner it needs to be removed. And when you see a kid who's under a tent with a respirator, get adjusted and pull the respirator away, because for the first time it's connected with its brain running its body, you'll understand the importance of getting the sick people chiropractic first, before they take the drug for the ear infections and they have no symptoms, they're healthy. Till they have allergies, take a drug, they have no symptoms, they're healthy. Until they're asthmatic, take a drug, they have no symptoms, they're healthy. So, I need your help in a couple of ways. One, I'm going to give you one of these cards, and I'm going to ask you also, you have this in your last page of your booklet. The World Works on Reviews. You could scan that, and my daughters don't even eat food unless they see it on Yelp, you know what I mean? So we want to help people, and we have a tremendous amount of reviews, but it's a never-ending thing. Read about J.D. He was one of those kids who had behavioral problems, could never do a split, had bowel issues, and got a miraculous thing happening. These are our kids in Haiti. That's our way to help them, our hope-giving certificate, and we'll have one of those for you, but I'm going to ask you to fill this thing out. 1 being not so good, 5 being the best on the information, the self-help guide, the computers, our presentation and organization. Any comments? On the reverse side, if you'd like us to lecture somewhere, we could do ergonomic studies too in places of business. Fill that out. We're now doing just in person, not just Zoom. If you want to receive our email newsletter, print plainly there. If you want somebody to attend the workshop, let them know we're going to call and invite them. Just tell them. And if you have somebody who needs to get checked, list their name here. If they're a family member, we can help them. If they're a family member or a friend somewhere else, I'll get a doctor who's very skilled in adjusting. But think of the people you know who are tired of being sick and tired. And lastly, to help us, that's usually on my computer screen, but I don't have the right PowerPoint there. Those are our children in Haiti. From the mission work, I used to go 4 or 5 times a year. After the earthquake in 2010, there were like 300,000 orphans. And we set up tents. My friend who runs Mission Life International brings students. He had left the day before the earthquake, but we got as many of those kids into homes, but we brought about 30 out of the capital into Wanamint, Haiti. And when they entered the school system, there was no way to educate them. And my wife and I had the foresight, she really did, she's the smart one, of forming a nonprofit. So we pay for the education of these 29 children. Another 100 kids up the road in Malfatti, we actually pay the teachers there to educate them. Here we send the kids to school. But for $15 a month, you buy their book bag, you pay for their tuition is $100, and they have to have the hair braids and the right socks, so they send them home. It's crazy. Or you could just put $1 when you come in the office in that box. It's up front. This explains about every dollar goes to their education. We have 0 administrative costs. You could put a $100 bill in there too. We accept those as well. So I thank you very much for being here. We are going to have some fundraisers for our kids at Governor's Comedy Club. It's a fun night. The comedians donate their time. That'll be in the fall, and we're probably going to have one coming up because we started some new projects to make them self-sufficient. So they're learning how to sew. They make their own uniforms. And it's really a great, great thing to know that you'd be helping them tremendously. Alrighty, guys. Thank you much for being here. I'm going to hand you one of those cards. Please take the time to fill it out. It'll take you 12 seconds. I gave you a bent one there, Brian. I don't know if you stepped on that.
Just curious,
Yes.
at what age